Bass player and composer Charles Mingus saw the question of how to take jazz forward in a different way. Mingus had risen through the ranks, playing in the bands of jazz legends like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Charlie Parker. But for the notoriously opinionated and hot-tempered Mingus, jazz wasn't a calendar history of styles so much as an ever-present now.
Charles Mingus had a very strong sense that there was no past, there was no present, there was no future. All of the time was alive at the same moment. He was a great thinker about music. He didn't buy anything about that, you know, a style lasted from 1920 to 1930. Mingus didn't buy that. His thing was that if it was good then, it's good now. He wanted the freedom to play in, to write in, to encourage his musicians to know how to improvise in every style.
In 1959, Mingus recorded and released Mingus It was one of 4 albums he made that year, not unusual in this prolific artist's long career. But Mingus was a tightly focused masterwork.
The title of the album sounds like a stutter while he's getting himself together to make his grand statement. You know, what's that about? What's really, really devastating about is the consistency. Tune by tune by tune. I mean, it's Mingus at his best. Mingus was digging deep into that roots thing with that incredible opening track. Better Get It in Your Soul. It's like a gospel choir. It's like a Pentecostal performance on a Wednesday night prayer meeting. But the incredible magic of it is not just the influences. It's how Mingus works it all together and makes it into its own new thing.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, no applause and keep it down. Your drinks, don't rattle your ice in your glasses, and don't ring the cash register. You got it covered? All right.
He had these enormous hands, and that made it possible for him to do certain things technically that just other bass players couldn't do. In fact, he was one of the greatest bassists in jazz. Well, he was one of the greatest players of the bass, period.
I can hear him now. He was powerful, powerful. You shut up when he played. Charlie Mingus was a big man with a big talent and a big temper. And people bugged him in the audience for some reason. Someone did. He got very angry, took his bass, and he smashed it through the light up there and broke it. The light's still there, the Mingus light. That's what it's become. He ripped the front door off once, and some little gal this big dragged it home, as I recall.
They say a lot of musicians never played better in their life than when they played with Mingus, because he was so demanding. And he used everything. He used anger, he used insults, he used flattery, whatever he could use. He would fire musicians and hire them back, 20 minutes later. Nothing was out of bounds.
He wanted you to understand play his music and be yourself in it. So often on a nightclub stand, he would stop and say to somebody, you're not playing yourself, you're playing notes.
I knew that Mingus was playing in this little club on West 4th Street, and I went into the club. There was an argument on the bandstand, they weren't even playing, and I heard Mingus like yelling at somebody, and it turned out to be the piano player. Mingus put his arm inside the piano, and he grabbed the strings and pulled them out with one fist. I said, man, it's time for me to get out of here. I'd never seen anything like that in my life.
Well, I'm gonna shoot it. A gun.
People are always telling me stories I don't want to hear about moments of Charles's volatility or things that took place, and take place they did. And Charles created scenes. He was called jazz's angry man, and he had plenty to be angry about. He had a lot to confront in those days for a man of his sensitivity and his sensibility and his talent, and unrecognized in many places merely because he had the wrong skin color. He wasn't dark enough and he wasn't light enough. He said, well, he called himself a mongrel or a mutt.
Like many jazz artists, Mingus was an extraordinary player and improviser. But with Mingus he began to assume his position as one of jazz's greatest composers.
I love Self-Portrait in 3 colors. A little through composed piece without any solos, just a little gem. Beautiful, this multifaceted composition. Charles once said that he was, through his music, trying to express who he was. And he said the reason it was difficult is because he was changing all the time. But through his music, you hear the fear, you hear the spirituality, the tenderness, the passion. Everything that he was comes out in his music.